Hello, listeners. Welcome back to TubTube podcast community, where we dive into the extraordinary life of Desmond Doss, an unlikely hero who defied the norms of his time, stood firm in his beliefs, and changed the course of history. This is the story of a man whose courage and unwavering commitment to his faith not only saved the lives of 75 soldiers during the bloodiest battle of World War II, but also set an enduring example of true heroism that transcends violence. Desmond Doss was not your typical soldier. Born in the heart of Virginia in 1919, Desmond grew up with a foundation built on the principles of peace, faith, and nonviolence. As a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, he was taught from an early age the importance of turning the other cheek, serving others, and never taking a life. His childhood was marked by the example of his father, a World War I veteran who struggled with the horrors of war and passed down to his son a deep distrust of violence. But it was Desmond's own internal moral compass that would guide him on a path few would understand. When World War II began, Desmond was faced with a dilemma that would change his life. At a time when men were drafted into the military to fight for their country, Desmond stood firm in his belief that violence was wrong. Yet, he still felt a call to serve. Rather than pick up a weapon, he chose to enlist as a medic, a non-combatant role that would allow him to save lives, not take them. His decision was controversial, and in a military environment where every soldier was expected to be armed and ready for battle, his refusal to carry a weapon made him a target for ridicule and abuse. But Desmond Doss would not be swayed. Despite the harsh treatment, the mockery, and the endless pressure to conform, he remained resolute. He would not bend on his principles, no matter the cost. His story of unwavering faith, resilience, and determination would later become one of the most inspiring accounts of courage in the face of adversity. The defining moment of Desmond's life came during the Battle of Okinawa, one of the bloodiest and most brutal campaigns of World War II. Here, on the slopes of Hacksaw Ridge, Desmond Doss would perform acts of heroism that would leave the world in awe. With no weapon to defend himself, he risked his lifetime and time again to rescue 75 of his comrades, pulling them from the battlefield and lowering them to safety. Under constant enemy fire, Desmond became the epitome of selflessness, his actions an incredible testament to the power of one person's unshakable faith. Desmond Doss's courage did not go unnoticed. His bravery was recognized by his comrades, who initially mocked him but eventually came to understand the depth of his conviction. He would go on to become the first conscientious objector in American history to receive the Medal of Honor, a symbol of valor in a world at war. But even after the accolades and recognition, Desmond remained humble. He returned to civilian life, not as a celebrity but as a man who believed deeply in living according to his faith, serving others, helping where he could, and living a life of peace. Through his unwavering commitment to his principles, Desmond Doss showed us that heroism isn't about taking lives, it's about saving them. It's about standing firm in what you believe in, even when the world around you says you're wrong. In this episode, we'll explore the incredible life of Desmond Doss, his upbringing, the challenges he faced, his actions on Hacksaw Ridge, and the legacy he left behind. Join us as we delve into the story of a true American hero, a man whose life proves that courage, compassion, and faith can shine even in the darkest of times. 1. Early life and values. Desmond Thomas Doss was born on February 7, 1919, in Lynchburg, Virginia, to William and Bertha Doss. His early life was shaped by his strong Christian upbringing, particularly within the Seventh-day Adventist faith, a branch of Protestant Christianity known for its commitment to pacifism and nonviolence. Desmond was raised with deep religious convictions that would later define his life, and it was these convictions that would place him at odds with the military during World War II. Doss's father, a World War I veteran, had experienced firsthand the horrific consequences of violence. After returning from the war, he struggled with what would later be understood as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. William Doss, though proud of his service, became deeply disillusioned with war and the trauma it inflicted on soldiers and their families. His experiences shaped his perspective on violence, and he passed those beliefs down to his children. Desmond, in particular, internalized his father's beliefs, making a vow at a young age never to harm another person, no matter the situation. This vow would define his character, even in the face of enormous pressure to abandon his convictions. Growing up in the heart of the Bible Belt in Virginia, Desmond was strongly influenced by the teachings of his church. The Seventh-day Adventist faith emphasizes the sanctity of life, the importance of peace, and the belief in the healing power of love and service to others. This religious foundation left a lasting imprint on Desmond's values. He learned the importance of standing up for what he believed in, no matter how difficult it might be, and he believed that it was his duty to serve humanity in a way that aligned with his faith. For him, this meant a commitment to healing and helping others without the use of violence. Though he was a gentle and kind-hearted person, Desmond's childhood was not without its challenges. He had a difficult relationship with his father, who could be strict and demanding, yet Desmond respected his father's convictions. This relationship would eventually shape Desmond's own journey as he struggled to reconcile his faith with the harsh realities of the world around him. He would later say that the lessons he learned from his father, particularly the need to respect and value life, stayed with him throughout his life. Desmond's early education was modest, and he often worked with his family on their small farm. He became skilled with his hands, learning carpentry and construction. The skills he acquired would later serve him in life, both as a medic and in his post-war career. However, it was not just his physical abilities that would come to define him. It was his deep, unshakable faith in his religious convictions. As World War II loomed, Desmond was faced with a moral and ethical dilemma. The war had escalated, and the United States was drafting men to fight. But Desmond was resolute in his belief that violence was wrong. He could not reconcile the idea of taking another life, even if it meant serving his country. His faith taught him that violence was a sin, and that a true Christian should not kill. At the age of 18, Desmond registered for the draft, but he made a specific request. He wanted to serve as a medic, where he could help save lives rather than take them. This request was unheard of at the time, as military service was generally seen as a direct involvement in combat. But Desmond's religious beliefs and his desire to serve in a non-violent role set him apart from the other draftees. His request for non-combatant service was met with resistance from military officials, many of whom were skeptical of his sincerity. They believed that a man who refused to carry a weapon would be a liability on the battlefield. However, Desmond stood firm, refusing to back down from his convictions. His request was a bold one, and it would set the stage for the tremendous challenges he would face in his military service. He was determined to serve his country, but he was also determined to do so in a way that was consistent with his beliefs. His faith, which had sustained him throughout his life, would continue to guide him as he faced the ultimate test of his character. 2. The Army and Struggles. When Desmond Doss entered the Army in 1942, he was met with skepticism and outright hostility. He had chosen a difficult and controversial path, one that would set him apart from his fellow soldiers and draw the ire of his superiors. The Army was not accustomed to conscientious objectors, especially those who insisted on serving without a weapon. It was a decision that would lead to harsh treatment, bullying, and even physical abuse. The early days of basic training were brutal for Doss. He was constantly ridiculed by the other recruits, who saw him as weak or cowardly for refusing to carry a weapon. His decision to become a medic without a firearm made him a target for abuse. He was called names like coward and yellow-bellied, and some of the other soldiers even went so far as to physically assault him. Despite this, Desmond never once considered giving up on his beliefs. He continued to perform his duties as best as he could, always adhering to the principle that saving lives was his mission, not taking them. The Army, unwilling to accommodate his religious beliefs, put additional pressure on Doss. He was forced to endure the ridicule and hostility of his fellow soldiers, and he was often assigned to the most dangerous and physically demanding tasks. One of the most difficult challenges he faced was the intense physical and psychological stress of basic training. The Army's rigorous physical demands tested Doss's resolve, and yet he persisted. The other soldiers had weapons and training for combat, while Doss had only his faith and medical training to rely on. Despite the adversity, Desmond Doss remained calm and focused. His commitment to his beliefs allowed him to endure the cruelty and hardships, and his resolve only strengthened. His behavior stood in stark contrast to the aggression and violence of the military environment, and in many ways, This made him a symbol of the power of inner strength and moral courage. He never once compromised his values, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. Eventually, Doss's dedication caught the attention of his superiors. They began to recognize his integrity and his deep commitment to his religious beliefs. However, there was still a great deal of skepticism about his ability to serve in a combat zone. Would he be able to perform under the pressure of actual combat? Could he be effective as a medic without a weapon to defend himself? Despite these doubts, Doss was deployed to the Pacific Theater, where the situation would soon test his courage in ways he could never have imagined. As a member of the 77th Infantry Division, he would soon find himself in the heart of one of the bloodiest and most dangerous battles of the war, the Battle of Okinawa. But it was in this crucible of battle where Desmond Doss would rise above all expectations and prove that his greatest weapon was his unwavering faith and dedication to saving lives. 3. Battle of Okinawa, the defining moment. The Battle of Okinawa, fought from April to June 1945, was one of the bloodiest campaigns of the Pacific War. With the Allied forces pushing toward Japan, Okinawa became a pivotal battleground. The battle saw intense fighting, high casualties, and brutal conditions. The U.S. forces encountered a well-entrenched Japanese army, determined to defend the island at any cost. For the soldiers on the front lines, the experience was nothing short of harrowing. Amid the chaos and bloodshed, Desmond Doss found himself at the forefront of one of the most extraordinary acts of heroism in military history. On May 5, 1945, Doss's unit was ordered to attack a heavily fortified Japanese position on the island's Maeda Escarpment, a steep cliff that offered a commanding view of the battlefield. It was known as Hacksaw Ridge, and the fighting was fierce. The Japanese forces launched a relentless counterattack, forcing the American soldiers to retreat. It was during this retreat that Doss's remarkable actions would save dozens of lives and earn him the Medal of Honor. As his comrades scrambled to escape the overwhelming enemy fire, Doss remained behind. Despite the dangers, he refused to leave. Instead, he continued to search for wounded soldiers, pulling them from the battlefield one by one and lowering them to safety. Doss's courage and selflessness were nothing short of miraculous. With no weapon to defend himself, he exposed himself to constant enemy fire as he dragged his comrades to safety, often under the cover of darkness. One of the most striking aspects of Doss's actions was the sheer number of soldiers he saved. Over the course of a single day, he rescued 75 men, many of them severely wounded. He used his medical knowledge to stabilize them, apply first aid, and carry them to a place of safety, all while under enemy fire. His dedication to his comrades was unwavering. He did not care about the danger to himself. His only concern was saving lives. The most famous moment came when Doss lowered each injured soldier down the cliff to safety, using ropes and sheer willpower. His actions were so extraordinary that they were described by many as miraculous. One soldier, Lieutenant Vaughn, recalled, "He was like a man on a mission from God." As the battle raged on, Doss's bravery did not go unnoticed. His fellow soldiers, who had once ridiculed him for his refusal to carry a weapon, began to see him in a new light. They came to respect and admire his courage, recognizing that Desmond Doss was no coward. He was a hero. His actions on Okinawa saved countless lives, and his bravery in the face of overwhelming odds cemented his place in history. For his heroic actions during the Battle of Okinawa, Desmond Doss was nominated for the Medal of Honor. But it was not just his courage that earned him the recognition. It was his steadfast commitment to his faith and his refusal to compromise his beliefs, even in the face of death. Doss's story would go on to inspire countless people around the world, proving that sometimes the greatest acts of heroism come not from weapons or violence, but from the strength of one's convictions and the will to help others. 4. Life after war. Desmond Doss's life after World War II was a quiet one, far removed from the public eye that had been cast on him following his heroic actions during the Battle of Okinawa. After returning home, Desmond did not seek fame or recognition. His life was dedicated to his faith, his family, and his work as a carpenter. His Medal of Honor was displayed quietly in his home, and he never sought to capitalize on the fame that came with it. In 1946, Doss married Dorothy Schutte, a woman who shared his Christian faith and values. The couple had one son, Desmond Jr. For Desmond, this was the beginning of a new chapter in his life. He was no longer a soldier fighting in a foreign land. He was a man building a life of peace and service. Although the war had left its mark on him, Desmond was committed to building a future that reflected the principles he had upheld during his time in the military. His humility and dedication to his family were key aspects of his post-war life. While his time as a soldier was behind him, Desmond continued to be a devoted member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. His faith remained the cornerstone of his life, guiding him through both the joys and struggles that came after the war. He became an active member of his church community, taking on various roles and responsibilities, but always remaining a humble servant of God. Desmond's faith was not just something he talked about. It was something he lived every day. Desmond's post-war life also saw him return to carpentry, a trade he had learned as a young man. He worked for many years as a carpenter, both on his own projects and for various employers. His craftsmanship was highly regarded, and his work was always done with the same attention to detail and dedication that had marked his service during the war. But even in his work, Desmond was driven by the same values that had guided him throughout his life: honesty, integrity, and a commitment to doing the right thing. However, while Desmond was content with his life after the war, the effects of his wartime experiences would stay with him. Like many soldiers, he experienced some degree of post-traumatic stress, though he rarely spoke about his time in combat. He had witnessed unimaginable horrors during the battle for Okinawa, and the memories of those experiences lingered. But rather than dwelling on the trauma, Desmond channeled his energy into helping others and living a life that reflected his deepest convictions. In 1988, Doss's story was featured in the book The Conscientious Objector by Booten Herndon, which helped bring his story to a wider audience. The book recounts his journey from a young boy with strong religious convictions to a hero on the battlefield. It paints a portrait of a man who stood by his beliefs in the face of enormous pressure and adversity. While Desmond was not one to seek attention, he was humbled by the recognition and thankful that his story could inspire others to live with courage and integrity. Desmond's life remained rooted in his values of service, peace, and faith until the very end. He lived a long life, dying at the age of 87 on March 23, 2006, in Piedmont, Alabama. His passing marked the end of an era for those who had known him, but his legacy lived on in the countless lives he had touched. Even after his death, Desmond's impact was felt around the world. His story continued to inspire new generations of people who sought to live with integrity and honor, regardless of the circumstances. In 2008, the story of Desmond Doss was brought to a wider audience through the film Hacksaw Ridge, directed by Mel Gibson. The film dramatized Doss's heroic actions during the Battle of Okinawa, highlighting his unwavering commitment to his faith and his role as a medic who saved 75 lives without ever firing a shot. While the film took creative liberties with certain aspects of Doss's story, it captured the essence of his character, his courage, humility, and devotion to his beliefs. In the years following the release of the film, Desmond Doss's story became known to millions of people who had never heard of him before. His legacy as a man of peace, courage, and selflessness continued to inspire individuals who faced their own battles in life. Desmond Doss proved that true heroism is not defined by the weapons we wield, but by the values we live by and the lives we touch. 5. Recognition and Medal of Honor. On October 12, 1945, President Harry S. Truman awarded Desmond Doss the Medal of Honor in a ceremony at the White House. Doss's heroic actions on Okinawa had made him the first conscientious objector in American history to receive the nation's highest military honor. The Medal of Honor citation recognized Doss's bravery and selflessness, describing his actions in vivid detail. He had saved 75 men, many of them at great personal risk, and his courage under fire had played a pivotal role in the success of the American assault on Okinawa. For Doss, the ceremony was a bittersweet moment. Though he was grateful for the recognition, he remained deeply uncomfortable with the idea of being called a hero. He had not acted for fame or glory. He had simply done what he believed was right. In his acceptance speech, he humbly stated, "I don't feel like I deserve this. I feel like I'm a humble servant of the Lord." His humility and sense of duty made him a revered figure, not just among his fellow soldiers, but among the American public. Desmond Doss had proven that heroism could come in many forms, that one could be a warrior without ever lifting a weapon. 6. Legacy and impact. Desmond Doss's legacy is one that continues to resonate today. His story is a testament to the power of conviction, faith, and the belief that one person can make a difference. Though he never sought the limelight, his actions on the battlefield and his humble life after the war have made him a symbol of what true heroism looks like. His example has inspired countless people across the world, and his impact goes beyond his time in combat. At the heart of Doss's legacy is his commitment to his faith. Desmond's steadfast belief in the principles of nonviolence and his refusal to compromise on his values set him apart from the majority of his fellow soldiers. He was a man who not only believed in peace, but also lived it out, even in the most extreme circumstances. His story serves as a powerful reminder that heroism is not always about the use of force. Sometimes, it is about the courage to stand firm in one's beliefs, no matter the cost. Doss's refusal to carry a weapon in battle was not just an act of defiance against the military. It was a demonstration of his deep moral convictions. He believed that it was his duty to save lives, not take them. His actions on Okinawa, where he saved 75 men without ever firing a shot, exemplify the power of selflessness. Doss showed the world that a man's true strength is not found in his ability to fight, but in his ability to serve others in the most difficult of circumstances. His story also highlights the importance of faith in shaping a person's character. Desmond's Christian beliefs provided him with the strength to face the unimaginable horrors of war and the challenges of military service. His faith sustained him during the darkest moments of his life, and it was through his faith that he found the courage to do what many others thought was impossible. For Desmond, his faith was not a passive belief but an active force that guided his every decision. The release of Hacksaw Ridge brought Desmond's story to an entirely new generation of viewers. The film, which was well received both critically and commercially, helped introduce Desmond Doss to millions of people who had never heard of him before. The portrayal of Doss's courage, conviction, and selflessness in the film resonated deeply with audiences around the world. Many viewers were inspired by his unwavering commitment to his beliefs and his ability to save lives without resorting to violence. The film also highlighted the challenges Doss faced during his time in the Army. It depicted the ridicule, isolation, and physical abuse he endured because of his refusal to carry a weapon. However, it also showcased the profound respect and admiration he earned from his fellow soldiers once they saw the depth of his courage and dedication. Desmond's story served as a reminder that true heroism often requires overcoming not just external challenges, but internal ones as well. In the years following the release of Hacksaw Ridge, Desmond's legacy continued to grow. His story became a source of inspiration for people from all walks of life, particularly those who faced personal or moral challenges. Desmond Doss demonstrated that the greatest strength a person can have is not their ability to fight, but their ability to stand firm in their convictions and to act with compassion and selflessness. Desmond Doss's story is also a powerful reminder of the importance of service to others. He demonstrated that heroism is not about recognition or glory. It is about the impact we have on the lives of those around us. By saving 75 men on the battlefield, Doss not only saved lives but also changed the course of many individuals' futures. His actions were a testament to the power of one person to make a difference in the world. Today, Desmond Doss is remembered not just as a hero, but as a symbol of the strength of human conviction and the power of peace. His life continues to inspire people to live with integrity, to stand up for what they believe in, and to serve others with selflessness and humility. Desmond Doss showed us that true heroism is not defined by the weapons we carry, but by the lives we touch and the values we uphold. As we reflect on his life and legacy, we are reminded that sometimes the greatest acts of courage come not from the battlefield, but from the choices we make in our everyday lives. Desmond Doss's unwavering commitment to his faith and his dedication to saving lives in the face of war serve as a powerful example of what it means to be truly heroic. Thanks for listening to this podcast. New episodes are released every Monday through Friday, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss out. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, share, and leave a review. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.